Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Hipster Podcast. This is your host, Jamil Hassan, the Crypto Hipster, where I interview founders, executives, entrepreneurs, leaders, authors, musicians, artists, you name it, in the world of crypto and blockchain globally. And today I'm really looking forward to this interview. I have an amazing guest. His name is, I'm gonna try to get this right, Christian Niedermuller. He is the CEO of Blocktrade. Christian, how did I do? And welcome.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, and you pronounced it exactly in the right way. So, thanks for that.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for being here. So let's kick things off, and I'll ask you first: what is your background, and is it a logical background for what you're doing now?
Yes, that's a good question. So, I think it's a logical background. I spent like 15 years in traditional banking in very demanding, challenging roles and private equity. And there was one job I had in one of the banks where I was the innovation manager of one of the banks. And this was 2013. And back then I came across crypto for the first time, but I still kept being in the banking world. But I was stoked more or less already by the idea of Bitcoin and crypto in general. And so I'm in crypto already as well for 7.5 years. I am the co-founder of the Digital Asset Association Austria. I am the co-founder of Dike, which is a validator service investment boutique, and of Smape Capital, which is a venture capital fund in the ecosystem. And for the last 14 months, I dedicated, I would say, 150% of my time to Blocktrade, where I'm the CEO for the last 14 months. Yeah, and I think this is quite logical overall. Yeah, so I feel very much at home where I am right now.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about Blocktrade, right? What is Blocktrade all about? What makes it unique, sets it apart from others?
That's the next good question. I mean, that's exactly the same question we asked ourselves 9 months ago. Being just like, I would say, 9 months ago, we've been just another random exchange, one of 500 exchanges out there. And yeah, we tried to answer exactly this question, execute on it over the last 9 months, and are trying, and are not just trying, but and are positioning Blocktrade in a very special way. So Blocktrade is actually now, after 9 months building and positioning, directly positioned at the intersection between gaming, gamification, and crypto. And I think that makes it very special and unique. And we built and are building some really interesting features, which are, from my perspective, unique in the industry. And yeah, that makes us unique from now on.
What are some of those features?
I mean, like, so every exchange, or a lot of exchanges, are regulated, have a lot of products, have like a little bit of a level avatar slash gamification. But we went a little bit further with the topic of gamification and fully implemented a 50 level rewards system on the platform, which will go live in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And this is featuring avatars on the platform, and it's going like just the next step of gamifying the Encrypto platform, like the implementation of gamification in that way as we are implementing it right now. Yeah. And in addition to that, if you allow me, we form mini games on the platform and are about to integrate Blocktrade within games outside and gaming communities outside of the blockchain itself, but as well with our very own token called BTX, which will be launched as well very soon.
I want to do a walkthrough, right? Exchange industry, right? What do you have you found that has worked, and what hasn't?
That's a good question. So I think what has worked or what has not worked is just going with hype cycles and just like concentrating on hype cycles. What has worked from my perspective is long-term positioning and long-term position brand building based on a clear vision. And that's exactly what we are doing right now. We are positioning ourselves in a very special niche in the crypto sector, and that's how we think we can differentiate ourselves from other players and position us in a way so that it can work. So this we don't want to like be based on short-term hype cycles, and this hasn't truly worked for one or the other centralized player.
Right. So hype cycles. Well, I would say this week has been a hype cycle, right? I didn't even know about this coin before Sunday, and now I heard about it the last few days. And it's a meme coin called Pepe. Somebody in my town told me that they put $300 into it and got $50,000, and they got lucky. And I'm like, it's nothing to do with luck. You're paying attention. Why do we need to pay attention to everything that's going on? And how does your exchange help your customers to pay attention?
You don't necessarily have to pay attention to every hype or every like everything that comes around the corner. I mean, funnily enough, I think I have seen one or the other Pepe. Haven't seen it this week, to be honest. Was too busy. But yeah, you will always see things like that, and prepare our customers, our community better to avoid being trapped in one of these hypes too late. Let's put it that way. Is that we are trying to educate them in a very good way. We have an academy, we have a certificate, and yeah, we're really trying of blockchain and crypto. I mean, for sure. I mean, meme coins are to some extent as well there to bring a little bit of fun into the ecosystem, and sometimes something also sustainable is being built on top of fun. So I'm not entirely against things like that, but yeah. So we are really trying to educate people about the basics and stuff like that, and then hope that we can contribute a little bit more. That the industry is also becoming more and more mature. Yeah.
So you're in Europe, and I'm in the U.S. Unfortunately, there's regulatory crackdowns, which I like to refer to as regulatory capture, because that's exactly what it looks like. With the overreaching, rogue agencies in our government here. With these overreaching agencies like the SEC, where do you think the industry can go from here, and can it go forward without the US?
Yeah, very good question. I think it's not just overreaching, it's actually creating a lot of uncertainty for a too long while, like it's been so long that Gary Gensler is in charge now, and he has been in the crypto industry like long beforehand, and everyone expected from him that he's more or less brings more clarity and clear rules to the US. But yeah, I fear he failed with that. And yeah, that's really interesting that we are talking today, actually, Jamil, because today the European Parliament actually ratified MiCA, which brings a lot of regulatory certainty and clarity to the European Union. And yeah, I think like if you do it right, and I'm not saying like MiCA is 100% right and everything is right what is being regulated, but it brings certainty and clarity. And if you have to over comply with some things, but you know what you have to do, and that you're not with one foot in the jail, then it's definitely more positive for the industry than like not having set proper rules and guidelines. Yeah, so that's my view. And then, you know what, that's also really interesting. I was at the first blockchain week, I think 3 weeks ago, and I've talked to actually a lot of projects from the US, and more than half of them highlighted that they are thinking or are already partially relocating through Europe. And I mean, who would have ever thought that, not myself, that you have like innovative US companies like trying to get out of the United States. That's like was always the other way around, you know, like European companies or Asian companies going to the US and not the other way around. Yeah. So, yeah.
So what I noticed was that, you know, Gensler is sticking to these 100-year-old rules, right? But every other country, Hong Kong, Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia, I can name, and then Europe, you're reevaluating the laws, you know, of your land to accommodate, you know, innovation, right? So why is that important, and what are you seeing as a result, as a positive impact for your exchange from the MiCA rules?
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's very important to modernize the laws and regulations based on factual developments on the tech sector. Yeah. I mean, but also like not everything is shiny in Europe just because we have MiCA now. You know, like there are also a lot of like capital market rules are like still like from early ages. So that's also there's a lot to do still. Yeah. But MiCA in general for us as an exchange, yeah, brings a lot of clarity and especially brings the possibility for us to perform our services all across Europe. This so-called passporting in Europe is coming with MiCA. That means if we are registered in one country with a MiCA license, then so with a license, we can bring our services to every other country in Europe and also do marketing everywhere. And for example, now this was still a very gray area and like uncertain field where we, for example, as an exchange, we are registered in Estonia, Slovenia, and Italy, are not really allowed to do active marketing in other countries, or every other country had different rules. And nowadays, like I mean, now from today on, as far as I know, we have 18 months time to apply and comply with the new rules, and also the local legislation has time to come up with some local rules or based on the MiCA regulation. But yeah, so this is a like a foreseeable time frame, you know, and it brings a lot of clarity. Plus, and that's also very important, not just for crypto asset service providers like we are, like so-called CASPs for MiCA, but as well for projects issuing token, you know. And I think Circle made a big step from the US, so at least partially they relocated already to Paris. You know, also the new MiCA regulation brings clarity for so-called asset reference tokens, for e-money tokens, and for all kinds of payment utility tokens. So there's like a whole rule set as well for token issuers, which is also very good. Yeah, because you really know what your token is, where it is from a legislation perspective, what you have to do to be compliant. So I think that's overall very good. Yeah.
Said a word there I don't think I heard before. You said asset reference tokens. Briefly, what is that?
Yeah, for example, a token which is based on gold, for example, or silver, commodities and stuff like that. So which is connected to an asset, so a physical asset or to assets. Yeah, but could be as well an asset reference token on all kinds of assets. Yeah, so which are not securities. So yeah, but yeah, asset reference token. Yeah,
Not securities. Got it. Thank you. Okay, so a rough year in 2022. You know, so the trust factor is an issue, right? How can especially with FTX and others, how can exchanges now build trust and capitalize on the slight, well, it was a rebound until yesterday, rebound, and is this rebound sustainable to drag us out of the crypto winter or bear market and move forward, building that trust if possible?
So in general, I mean, the most trust you can build since FTX, and I think every exchange around the globe was hit hard by the FTX dilemma. Every exchange can build trust if you are fully compliant with clear rules, laws, and if you are very transparent. And in the same time, with doing so, also are proving that you are compliant and that you are adhering to security standards and stuff like that. So for us, for example, I mean, as said, we are regulated by three European regulators, and we are also audited in the jurisdictions we are working in by big four companies, so by big auditors, and they, especially since FTX, they are looking really closely on each and every aspect. So I think this can build a lot of trust now, and will build a lot of trust. And we see it, like, I mean, you have to imagine, like, we were close to signing an insurance the week before FTX happened. Then we somehow did not sign it, and the week after FTX happened, the insurance came back to us with 25 questions about all kinds of details they haven't asked before. I mean, it was no problem. We answered these questions, but with this example, you can see that since FTX, I mean, this was an insurance, but also with all the banks we were working with, and with all the auditors and stuff like that, there came so many more questions in the overall process of working together, which I think is good and will build trust over time. Yeah, even more trust. Yeah, so I think the industry standards are always improving based on scandals like the FTX breakdown scandal. Yeah.
Yeah. I still noticed after all these years, and you've been in there in crypto before me, but after all these years, there's still hostility. There's hostility toward, these meme coins. There's hostility towards other components of crypto. What do you see as the key investor trends now that are emerging, and how do we overcome that hostility towards those emerging trends?
Oh yeah, very good question. I mean, like, emerging trends always come. Some of them come very quickly and are difficult to foresee. I think, like, there will be a lot of infrastructure is being built now. I mean, I'm not sure how well you are versed with zero knowledge proof technology and stuff like that, and like, I see a lot of, with my investment angle slash view on things, I see a lot of interesting infrastructure project in terms of, like, cross chain bridges, cross chain infrastructure, settlement. And this is very important, that the next step can be done by the industry, which will be done. I mean, this is so long in the making, but it's like the next steps towards the masses, and that can only be done when the UX and UI, so the user experience and user interfaces, get much better. But they can get just much better if the infrastructure in the back end gets much better and easier to use and to implement. And this is what's happening. I mean, this is not like the hype cycle you were asking for, the next hype, but I think that's what's being built during bear markets, or not hype cycles. And I think that's exactly where we are still in. And yeah, so I think that's what I see is being done, yeah, right now, and what's happening in the back. Yeah.
Infrastructure, roll-ups, cross-chain, multi-chain.
Yes. And in the same time, what I also see now, especially in the last few weeks, happening is consolidation. So I mean, some players stop to work or merge with others, being bought up. So I think this is just the beginning for the next 1 to 2 years. I think there will be a lot of consolidation. Projects, unfortunately, will stop. Also, players on the centralized side, but also on the decentralized side, will slow down or stop working, you see this. This is also typically for the current time of the cycle, I think. Yeah. So some won't survive. There's not enough like funding for everyone. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Been some surprise. I've been surprised by some of the shutdowns. Like I was surprised by Paxful. That's a big global player, right? They didn't consolidate; they shut down, right? So, how are these shutdowns going to impact everything? Do you think it's going to be a positive, or do you think crypto is going to whittle away?
I think there's still. I mean, I was also surprised by Paxful, to be honest. I was closely following and admiring actually the way Paxful went, and especially with their peer-to-peer element, where they had really a global reach and were doing good things, I think, for the industry. But yeah, I mean, like while some projects are shutting down, I also see new coming out of the woods, every other week. So it's not that if projects are shutting down, you don't see new ones emerging. I just today I saw a new like decentralized exchange coming out, which offers really new perspectives and new elements. So this is also like it's not the end if some are shutting down. It's probably just the next innovation cycle which is starting. Yeah. So yeah.
Tell you my fear before we get into the next question. What I'm afraid of, and I wrote about this 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, is that I think the SEC is trying to take the crypto industry and put it under the purview of the U.S. banks or other major big players, right? How do you see it? Is that a possibility? And how harmful or helpful would that be to the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're not entirely wrong. What we're seeing now is definitely that regulators and central banks and everyone is putting stricter rules on banks. I mean, we see this as a centralized exchange, that we have like really more and more stricter like requirements from banks we are working with in terms of like monitoring us, questions on us. I mean, as I said, this is good on the one hand because we are being prepared more and more to also apply all these rules and being compliant. But on the other hand, it's getting more and more difficult to bank actually as a crypto asset service provider with banks. And yeah, I mean, on the other hand, the will be able to restrict their banking access for US projects, but they won't be able to. This is also a chance for and this competition was always good for innovation. So I think this will be a chance for other places where you have clearer regulation that banks are still feel comfortable to bank with crypto companies. And yeah, that's then where crypto and digitally add more. So what's negative for the US can be better for other areas of the world.
You're already seeing that. You're seeing that in the CoinGecko first quarter report. You've seen that in all the DApp radar reports that Asia and Europe are booming as far as gaming is concerned. And you said you're on the bridge there, or the cusp or the bridge of gamification and exchanges, right? Do you think are possible now with your exchange and these, the growth in the growing sectors of the crypto economy?
By purpose, we didn't want to like restrict us only on the crypto community. So we really want to bring crypto actually to gaming with gamification elements, but as well with actual gaming offerings on the exchange, but also integrating our exchange outside in gaming companies and platforms. And this merge and looking to other areas and to other like growing areas, this will also be good for the crypto industry, but also like for other industries, and this will lead to like a lot of like new like symbiotic offerings and like to very interesting, innovative elements, I think, which will come up. I mean, just to give you an example, we are talking to a game company, for example, that we will have something like a staking game directly on our exchange. I mean, still there are some uncertainties around legal questions and around questions around like, is this from a gaming perspective possible? But with this element, you can see that I think a lot of innovation will happen if a market is kind of saturated or is in a consolidation phase. Some players are aiming to differentiate themselves in an interesting way, are interested as well to collaborate with different and new players, and this normally always leads to one or the other innovative elements. That's how I see it. Yeah, more collaboration, more cross the fence thinking, and I think this will be good overall. Yeah, it'll lead to new innovations.
Right. So let's talk about that. In the early 1920s in the US, they created something called the air conditioner, right? And from there, you had all kinds of industries. You had not just the main industry of creating the air conditioner, but you had refrigeration, you had gasoline, you had all kinds of things that were corresponding support sectors, right? And you don't have that right now in crypto, right? How do we get there? How do we navigate that challenge and some other challenges too, collectively and collaboratively, so that we can build support structures around the industry?
So I think like that's exactly what's happening. You can't imagine how many emails I'm getting per day from companies like which are reaching out, which are doing exactly these things, like building infrastructure around crypto, like on the marketing side of things, but also on the exchange infrastructure side of things, on like being it development offerings, being it like completely product outsourcing offerings or product development offerings. So I think there's a lot of development on the infrastructure side, which is a little bit under the radar. Like, I mean, I witnessed that a lot because like I get approached proactively by so many projects doing their business development and like product fine tuning, let's put it that way. So I think there's a lot happening in this respect, and a lot of like small, medium-sized companies are finding their way. Let's put it that way. On the infrastructure side of things in the industry, like I see a lot of development there. Yeah, and you also see more traditional players like smaller banks tapping in areas like being a liquidity provider, or like buying up a crypto liquidity provider which is in trouble, for example, and like adopting this to their normal traditional business. Yeah, and so I think, and this also comes a little bit with the thoughts I shared around consolidation and collaboration. This is exactly what I'm seeing right now in the industry.
Interesting. I don't know if you've been following the either the Voyager or the Celsius drama, but the firms that are approaching to make offers and bids are they're not traditional banks, they're not startups, they're actually distressed debt companies, right? So what role do you think those distressed debt companies, since you have those conversations, will have in these consolidations?
Yeah, that's very interesting. I share one thought in that respect. I've been a banker before and in private equity, and worked as well with a US private equity firm called Cerberus, and they're also big in buying up distressed companies, transforming them and stuff like that. So I also have experience in that field. And when Celsius happened and Voyager, I was just like having some AMAs with SMAPE, the fund I was also co-founding, and suddenly these former peers from the PE transformation and were coming around the corner and were joining these AMAs because they thought, okay, there's a big chance now in buying up new kind of debt and more flexible kind of debt. And yeah, that's definitely happening. Like a lot of these players are sneaking into that. Also, like, I mean, I can't talk about this yet, but there are also new, very new elements coming around the corner in terms of like investing in token. I saw like traditional like structurings, debt and equity kind of investment structurings being now applied on token offerings. Like this is very interesting. Yeah, so the more traditional fund and investment industry is appreciating actually as well the flexibility of digitized assets, let's put it that way, yeah, and more flexible assets. And yeah, so on all ends, on the debt side, but also on the more active side of things, yeah, on the asset side of things, yeah, asset and debt, yeah. So yeah, definitely, that's definitely happening, yeah. But also more from niche players. So like, yeah, like looking into Celsius and Voyager, debt buyouts that was definitely not done by the very big like traditional players, yeah.
Used to work at AIG. I worked at AIG for a dozen years, so we created structured products all the time. So that's why I asked you. It makes sense. So yeah. So I want to thank you very much for your time today. I really enjoyed talking to you. And I have, I guess, one last question, and it's really easy. It's how can people find out more information about Blocktrade, about you, about what all the great things you guys are up to? How can they do that?
That's very easy. Just go to www.blocktrades.com or search for us on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Telegram, and find us there. And yeah, everyone who wants to know more about me or wants to get in touch with me, just write me on LinkedIn. My name is Christian Niedermuller, as you pronounce this so greatly, Jamil. And so yeah, just reach out to me. I'm actually very easy reachable normally. So yeah, and then you can find out more.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. It was a really interesting discussion. Thanks a lot.